Hey, it's Jocelyn here. I am excited that you are joining me. Today we are going to have a discussion about giving yourself grace when it comes to losing weight and all the fun that goes with guilt around food and eating food and how to not beat yourself up. This has been a tough one for me to learn, but it has been really powerful to implement, and it has been a huge part of what has made me successful in losing all of my baby weight after my last two babies number 3 and number 4. So let's dive in, and if you think of a friend during this episode, will you share it with them? And if you haven't given me a rating on iTunes, that really helps other moms find it. If you could do that, I would really appreciate it. Let's jump in. Hi, I'm Jocelyn, host of the Positive in Pregnancy and Motherhood podcast. I help pregnant women and mothers to find positivity in their season of life through changing their thoughts to work for them and not against them. I help mothers find the small, doable steps in thought and action without making drastic changes to their everyday mom life. And I can help you. Thanks for joining. So I like to give people that I'm talking to with weight loss an analogy. And if you've been on the podcast for any amount of time, you have probably heard this analogy. But it's a powerful analogy, and it helps me to describe to you the way my thinking has changed in regard to this. So I want you to think about your weight loss as a highway. Let's think that you currently weigh X amount, and that amount is in Idaho. So you weigh this amount in Idaho, but you would like to get down to Arizona. So you want to lose weight so that you release that weight and you're down to this weight, which we are going to call Arizona. Now, in real life, to get from Idaho to Arizona is a long stretch of land and road and rivers to cross and mountains to go over. It's a long way and it's a long journey. Weight loss can be looked at as the same. It is a long journey to get from point A to point B. It takes persistent patience, it takes intentionality, and it takes trying. So we're going to jump on this highway from Idaho to Arizona, and we are going to start trying to lose weight. So on this journey, you make some changes. As I talked about last week, you can't do the same thing and expect to lose weight. You've got to make some changes. For me, those changes looked like cutting out all white flour and all white sugar and going for natural foods. That was what worked for me. There may be a different plan, like counting calories or macros, or a keto or paleo. There's so many options. I'm not saying my way was the right way, but for me, it worked. So we're not talking about methods today. I'm getting a little off track. Sorry about that. But we are talking about this highway. So we're in Idaho. It's a long journey to get to Arizona, and along that highway, there has to be pit stops. You've got to stop. You can't make it all the way from Idaho to Arizona in one tank of gas. It just doesn't happen. You physically will run out of gas, and you can't make it. Same happens with us in our goals with weight loss. We likely cannot make it from Idaho to Arizona all the way in one tank of gas, in one fell swoop of saying, yep, I just ate strict for 6 months and I lost all the weight with no cheats. That is incredibly hard, and in my mind, probably impossible. Even when I was losing weight, I had to take these pit stops. I had to kind of stop at the side of the road, get my gas, get my bearings, and then get back on the highway. So what does a pit stop mean? When we take these pit stops in our weight loss, they can look like eating the cookie, having a piece of cake at a party, putting the bun on our hot dog at a family reunion. Like, it can look like all sorts of, quote, cheats, unquote, when they weren't things that you originally wanted to do in relation to your goal, in relation to this weight loss goal, in getting you from Idaho to Arizona, from weight X to weight Y. So when I heard the analogy of looking at your weight loss like a highway and you having to take some pit stops to get from point A to point B, it was really mind-opening to me. And also realizing that I just had to have some patience. I wanted it now. I wanted to be from Idaho to Arizona now. I didn't want to have to take the 24 hours or whatever it takes to drive from Idaho to Arizona. And I had to learn to be okay with the pit stops. So when I was first trying to lose weight, I thought it was useful to guilt or shame myself to death. Because maybe if I felt enough guilt and shame about having that cookie or putting that bun on that hot dog or having the cake, that I would do better next time, because I just felt so terrible and so horrible that I ate it, that would definitely encourage me to be better next time. I tried this and I actually lived this way for years and it didn't work. It did not serve me at all. It didn't help me in my goals. In fact, it made me stay even farther back, because then I got a little crazy and was like, well, I can't do it. I'm terrible at this. I suck at it. I'm not good. It's not going to happen. And because I was telling myself those things, because I thought those things were useful, I thought they would make me feel guilt enough to do it next time, but no, they didn't. They actually made me feel less than. They made me feel worthless and that I wasn't going to reach my goal and that I couldn't do it, and it didn't encourage me at all to keep going from point Idaho to point Arizona, from point X to point Y, which is what we are talking about in this podcast. When I realized or learned from other podcasters that I needed to give myself grace when it came to eating food, I was like, no, there's no way that's going to work. I was really skeptical. And I didn't believe that if you just kind of gave yourself grace and got back on the highway, that it would actually serve you better than beating the crap out of yourself. I didn't think it would work. But surprise, because I'm here talking about it, it did work. It actually worked a lot. Sometimes on weekends when I would be like, okay, I'm not going to have a treat this weekend. I'm not going to do it. And then for some reason or another, I ate the treat. My brain convinced me to have the treat and I had it. Instead of beating myself up, I would just be like, you know what? That's okay. I had to take a pit stop on my highway drive, and I'm going to get back on the highway on Monday. I'm going to get back to my rules myself. I don't like calling them rules because that's really not a good way to look at it either. I prefer to call the way I eat guidelines. Because when they're rules, I am restricted, or I feel restricted by those rules. And if I feel restricted, it actually makes me want to act out more, which is a whole nother topic I could do a podcast on. But looking at them as guidelines really served my mind. My healthy guidelines were not to eat flour and sugar. So I had that pit stop on the weekend, but the next week I was going to get right back on the highway, going from Idaho to Arizona to lose my weight. And I found that as I gave myself grace, as I was okay with having a treat and not beating myself up, it was actually easier to get back on that highway, to get back on that diet, to get back on my guidelines, as I like to call them. I don't like to refer to it as diet either, because it's actually a way of living that I wanted to achieve. And I have been able to achieve it, and that's only through these thought shifts, through shifting my thoughts from beating myself up to being okay with eating the treat. It was really powerful and really moving in helping those pounds come off. And in my mind, feeling like I could do it, feeling like I could just get back on the highway, like I wasn't less than a person because I had ate the cookie. When before I was convincing myself of what a terrible person I was because I ate the cookie and that wasn't helping me reach my goals, and that was such a stupid choice. Why did you do that? You set yourself back. Instead of having those thoughts, having the thoughts of, oh, I ate a cookie. That's okay. I'm just going to get back on the highway tomorrow and keep going. It was so freeing to be able to release all that negative shame and guilt And just to realize that maybe if I take more pit stops, it's going to take me longer to get from Idaho to Arizona. But that's okay. Eventually, I will get there. There are ways that you can make your trip from Idaho to Arizona have a lot less pit stops. But for some of us, it takes a lot more pit stops, which means it's going to take us a lot longer to get there. But as you are patient, as you are willing to give yourself grace, and as you are willing to work through some of these mental issues that are going to block you in losing your weight, you will be able to easier do it. I know because I have been able to easier do it. I lived in it at a time when I thought losing weight was impossible for me. Other people were just lucky because they figured out the secret. Yeah, the secret was in my mind and in my thoughts and what I thought about food and the thoughts I was telling myself. And I bet that's a big part of it for you too. You can do this, Mama. You can lose this baby weight. If Jocelyn can do it, you can do it. I know you can. You just have to believe in yourself, and after you take a pit stop, get right back on that highway. Follow your guidelines and keep going. God needs you. God needs you to be the woman and the mother that He designed you to be. And I actually have another thought on that I'm going to say, because I found this actually very thought-shifting as well. And this one could also be another podcast episode, but I'm giving you lots of tidbits in this podcast because I'm feeling really fired up and passionate about it. And that is that you are you no matter what the scale says. If the scale says you are 200 pounds, if you're 250 pounds, or if you're 130 pounds, you are still you no matter what that scale says. What are your thoughts about you? I found that really eye-opening and able to move forward when I was talking to other people. Sometimes I would feel less than. I'd compare myself and be like, oh, they don't want to hear my opinion because I'm just a big fat girl. And I wouldn't say anything because my confidence was really low and I was just kind of struggling. But as I realized that I am still Jocelyn, whether I am 170 pounds or 140 pounds, I was able to be more me. And that helped me to move forward with more confidence, which actually, surprisingly, helped me to make better food choices because I was feeling more confident because I was acting like me. I wasn't acting like a fat girl. I was acting like me. So act like you, and know that in this journey from Idaho to Arizona, maybe that should be a hashtag, Idaho to Arizona, for women wanting to lose weight. On this journey from Idaho to Arizona, you can do it. You are still you, no matter your weight. Your weight is just the Earth's gravitational pull on your body. Give yourself grace as you have to take those pit stops. Because like I mentioned just a couple minutes ago, God needs you. Your children need you, and you need you in whatever goals you have. If they're weight loss goals, if they're mothering goals, if they're mindset goals, if they're just doing what you say you're going to do goals. There's all sorts of things that we can have on our mind that we want to improve. And I want to encourage you to give yourself grace. Shame and guilt will not serve you. At least that has been my experience. I'm cheering you on in this journey. If you need deeper help, I do mom coaching. It is 10 minutes at a time for 5 weeks. And it is powerful because it is the small and simple stuff, exactly what I'm talking about in this episode, that will help you move forward in these endeavors. Message me on my email. I am going to write a note, and I'm going to get a calendar system done so that you can do it via calendar if that feels better to you. Sometimes it's a little scary to reach out over email, so do a calendar system. That's what we're going to do. If that interests you, hit me up in the email, or hopefully soon I will have a calendar system ready for you, and I can help you in these weight loss goals if that is where you are at in your motherhood. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing, but most of all, thank you for implementing these tools into your life. As you do, share with me how they have affected you. I would love it. Until next time. Thank you for being a part of the Positive in Pregnancy and Motherhood podcast, for listening, for sharing, And most of all, for applying these tools into your own life to improve your own happiness so that you can find your own better thoughts for a better you in a positive pregnancy, in losing that stubborn baby weight, and becoming the mom you desire to be through taking small steps in thought and action to reach your goals. If you are a mother who has an inner desire to enjoy motherhood and pregnancy better, but you are having difficulty figuring it out, I can help you. I can help you find the small, doable steps without drastic changes to your everyday mom life. Reach out, let's connect, and let's see you move forward. My name is Jocelyn, and I thank you for listening. Until next time.